Good evening. I now call the October 5th, 2021 regular meeting of the City Council to order. Tonight, our invocation is going to be given by our police chaplain, Brian Nevins. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. If you would please join me in prayer. Beloved God, we thank you for the privilege of living in this great country, state, and city. We ask that you teach us how to maintain the true principles of independence and freedom, both of our country and your kingdom. Please put it into our hearts to protect and preserve the rights that our very own founding documents proclaim came from you, the same rights that so many men and women live and die to protect and preserve in our own city and abroad. For that, we honor them in your presence and thank you for them. You indeed know about sacrificing your son for the sake of others. We ask that our city officials would be just as protective of our rights and take their responsibilities to the residents of our friendship city with the gravity and wisdom they need and deserve. In your word, you promised that if any need wisdom, to simply ask, and you will give it generously. And so we ask and we pray for Mayor Fetty, for our city manager, Mr. Kramer, Chiefs Rader and Whittaker, and for this assembled council. We thank you for their service and are asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our citizens, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their task. And so we pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Erlanger. And we ask these things in the most blessed name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Before we rise for the pledge, I also want to ask you to keep one of our treasured public works workers in your prayers, Cody Thacker. Last week he lost his grandmother, and now hospice has been called in for his grandfather. So his family is going through a pretty rough time right now, and I'd ask that you keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. Now please rise for the pledge. Mrs. Hoffman, if you could please take roll.
Miss Elmore? Present. Mr. Cahill?
Present.
Miss Kyle?
Present.
Mr. Skidmore?
Present.
Mr. Hermes?
Here.
Mr. Doan?
Present.
Mr. Meyer?
Present.
Miss Skidmore? Miss Nicely?
Present.
Mr. Nipper? Miss Reckers?
Here.
Miss Jasper Lucas?
Here.
Thank you so much. You've all received a copy of the minutes for the September 7th, 2021 regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Mrs. Reckers? Mrs. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. All right, you've also received a copy of tonight's agenda. Are there any additions to be made at this time? Ms. Reckers?
I'd like to add a piece of legislation to discuss reduction of council to 9.
To legislation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mrs. Nicely, are you seconding the motion? Okay.
Sorry. And to add something as well.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
I'll second that motion.
You'll second?
Mayor.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carried to add to legislation reduction of council size to 9. Ms. Nicely, did you have a question?
I would like to add something as well to the agenda for tonight.
Okay,
The reduction of council size to 7.
okay. Okay,
I'll second that as well, Mayor.
all right. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Skidmore?
If we got to do a cut and everybody wants a cut, let's go down to 11. Let's not take such a drastic cut at one time.
So are you making a motion?
Motion to go to 11.
Well, we're in the middle of discussion.
The motion that's on the floor right now is a discussion on the motion to reduce council size to 7. So I think we first need to get that on the agenda before we add anything else to the agenda.
All right.
Ms. Kyle?
I'm confused. I thought we said a while back that we weren't going to add anything to the agenda. Do you remember that? I thought we said it had to be, the council had to be notified by Friday because, you know, a lot of us kind of like to get prepared. I mean, I can live with it, but I'm just confused because I thought we said that. Am I incorrect?
No, you're correct. We have a municipal order in place, which we passed, I think, in February or March of this year, which specifically says that all proposed legislation, regardless of source, in its final form for first reading, shall be received by the city clerk no later than 12 p.m. on the Friday before the council meeting. That being said, obviously, council can change these rules if they choose to. Like, the municipal order is a guidebook, but
I just think it's a good idea because, I mean, I have no problem discussing it tonight, but for first reading, it seems kind of like, and I understand we're trying to beat a deadline with this too, if you want it in place by the next election. Didn't you say it had to be done by?
well, I mean, and I'll let the council members who have their motions speak for themselves, but we just have to have it in place 240 days prior to the general election.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay, so we've got time. Thanks.
Mrs. Reckers?
The reason that this, well, I didn't bring it up, it was brought up by Mrs. Nicely, then it was tabled. The filing window opens for people who have an interest in candidacy November 3rd. I think the optics would be absolutely terrible to discuss this during the filing period for our city. I just don't think it would look well. Because we are looking to reduce the amount of people for seats. So that's why I propose to bring it up now, so that if there is discussion and if it is going to pass, not pass, whatever the case may be, that is done prior to that 3rd. So our next meeting, full meeting, regular council meeting is November 2nd, which would be one day prior to the filing window. Does that make sense? So that's the only reason that I even presented it tonight, is because of that, so.
Mrs. Jasper Lucas was next. I'll get to you, Gary.
I just am a little bit confused because it seems like there's been some conversations that have been had. I'm not calling Ms. Kyle out, but she just said that you said that there was a deadline, but this is the first that I'm hearing publicly about a deadline. So I just am wondering if there's been conversations that have been going on that all of us weren't privy to.
I think we've mentioned the 240 days at probably at least 4 or 5 prior meetings.
Oh, okay, at prior meetings,
And-
okay. I'm just making sure there wasn't information that I wasn't aware of. Okay. I mean, I appreciate Ms. Reckers explaining it, but that was the first that I've heard in a meeting that I.
Right, but for clarification, I think I've had at least 7 people on this council contact me tonight about this issue, and obviously council can freely discuss with me any issue that's on the agenda.
I understand that. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't information that was being shared that I didn't know about. Okay.
Council can also speak freely with other council members. I mean, so long as we're not talking to a quorum.
I didn't say that they couldn't. I just wanted to make sure that there
Okay.
wasn't.
I think there's lots of conversations that go on that we're not all privy to.
I
Mr.
understand
Meyer.
that. I just wanted to understand the regulations.
Okay.
And the timeline for myself.
Okay, Mr. Meyer.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify why, I know I motioned, I seconded both of these. One, I do want to get to a point where we have discussion. And I understand that, ideally, we're doing this in advance of the filing date. I don't think it's appropriate to wait until, the last minute, because that February, March date is past the time where people could file, because we still do have a primary on the books. I understand this is not necessarily ideal, but at least, one of the things that I was going to ask when we get to new business is that we, at the caucus meeting, also have this on the agenda to have some discussion and decide, which of, or potentially a special meeting, which one of these pieces, if any of them, does the council really want to have forward? This at least gets that started so that we can, go forward with that discussion. And if we decide, hey, and we don't want to do any of these, then we can certainly, remove them from, that portion of the meeting.
Mrs. Jasper Lucas.
I'm just clarifying our protocol because I was talking before and I thought we were supposed to be called upon when we wanted to talk, and Mr. Hermes was not called upon.
Okay.
And he addressed me.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this matter? Mr. Hermes.
What is the filing deadline? I mean, we're talking about having it in place before the filing starts. Filing deadline's in the beginning of January. If we were to pass this in December and actually discuss this in a caucus meeting prior to a first reading, we would still have, a candidate would still have like a month or more to be able to file to run.
Ms. Reckers.
To answer your question, it is January 7th, but again, it's the window itself. It's changing the game while you're picking teams. I think the optics would be terrible to do that during that period. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay, any other discussion before we vote on adding the reduction of council to 7 to the agenda? Ms. Kyle.
I just wanted to answer Mrs. Jasper that I had asked you that question. How long did we have before the next election to decide that? So there was no private conversation going on there. Just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Can you raise your hand if you need? Thank you.
All right, motion failed. I'm sorry, how many were there? Okay, let's just do roll call vote. Or do you have it, Sherry? How many were there? Are nays? Okay, so motion passes.
I think it's best to do a roll call. I think there's,
Not intentionally.
Ms. Reckers,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Elmore,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore,
We're voting on adding to the agenda the ordinance to reduce council to 7.
No.
Mr. Hermes,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore, Ms. Kyle,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper Lucas,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Nipper,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Doan,
Aye.
Ms. Nicely,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes, ma'am.
I have 6 yes.
Okay, so my vote is yes.
all right, so for clarification, we have 2 first readings on legislation. a reduction of council size to 9, and also a first reading for reduction of council size to 7. So we'll have 2 first readings on that tonight.
Okay, any other additions to be made to the agenda at this time? Okay, seeing none, do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented with the additions? Mr. Meyer, Mrs. Reckers, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, this evening, our business spotlight, I'd like to welcome Dr. Tony Schumann. He is with the Erlanger Veterinary Hospital. If you'd like to come to the podium, thank you so much for being here. If you hit the little green button, it'll turn on the microphone. Maybe. Oh, orange? Okay.
Yeah, I was like, green is not on there. Good evening, everybody. I'm Tony Schumann. I'm one of the, we do have 6 doctors at the veterinary hospital in Erlanger. The hospital originally started a little house on Graves Avenue back in, I think, actually Dr. Hastings bought it from Dr. Waite in 1982. I don't know Dr. Waite, who originally owned it. I know he used to see horses and things out of the house at the time, but we were there. I became a doctor there. I started there in '85, coming out of high school, and then became a doctor in '94 and joined Dr. Hastings. And him and I eventually were able to build a clientele and a business to be able to buy the old community bank there on Dixie Highway from Arnold Cadell. That bank kind of sat there, kind of a sore eye for 2 or 3 years, just empty. And the last time I was up here was trying to get everything ready to rehab and redo the building back in 2000, 2001. So it took us a couple years of rehabbing it. We did one side of the building as the vet hospital. The other side we made into a kind of a boarding daycare area for dogs and cats and some exotics too. So it's been a really nice feature to add a bigger place there. We do support about 46 employees there, and really, we're a really busy facility. The biggest things that we do there, we mainly see small animals, dogs, cats. We do see a lot of exotics. We do take care of pretty much all the non-hoofed animals at the Ark, so we will get some wild things in there, which is pretty neat for us to change the day to work on a porcupine or a 40, 50-year-old tortoise and things like that. It is kind of a good change of pace. But mainly what I do there, I'm the surgeon there that does mostly all the orthopedics. We do see, a lot of knees, ankles, a lot of broken bones, things like that we repair. And certainly all the exotics too, but mainly that's what I do there. Of course, we're a full service veterinary facility, both doing, a lot of your vaccines, your daily maintenance things, and just sick animals. But, I think everybody mostly sees us in the community. I remember getting complaints when my first sign that I made, they forgot the R in Erlanger, and I had them put it up. And I got more calls that day of having Elanger because they were right there on the turn. So it was a catching thing. But I guess one of the biggest things I'm proud of, we've been servicing most all the police dogs in this area for years. Ludlow, Erlanger, Covington, SWAT, Kenton, Newport, we're on calls for all of them. And I think Mike you know, is able to say we take good care of them, and we're always there for them. But thank God we had one got in a head-on collision Saturday night at 2:30, and thank God he was okay. So, but that's what we do there at the clinic. Anybody's welcome to come by and visit us, and that's about it. So thanks for having us, okay?
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here. I appreciate it. It's always really interesting to hear all the fun and exciting things that are going on in our city that we don't know. So that's really cool. And I wanted to thank you. Our police dog was attacked on Christmas Eve last year, and it was rushed right to you guys, and you took very good care of Keno. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mhm. All right. Next on the agenda, I have two proclamations. To all to whom these presents shall come. The City of Erlanger is observing National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the culture, heritage, and countless contributions of those whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, as well as those who came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. This year's theme, Esperanza, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope, encourages us to reflect on the legacy of Hispanic people who have influenced our nation's history and serve today as leaders in all aspects of our national life, from the Supreme Court and halls of Congress to boardrooms and main streets across all of the United States. We recognize and honor the many ways that Hispanics have enriched the fabric of our society. Hispanics continue their rich tradition of significant and diverse contributions to the cultural, educational, and economic vitality of the City of Erlanger. Now, therefore, I, Jessica Fetty, Mayor of the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th of 2021 to be National Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Erlanger, and do commend this observance to all our citizens, given under my hand and the seal of the City of Erlanger on this day, October 5th, 2021. Our next proclamation. The City of Erlanger is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city. Fire safety is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the greatest risk for fire-related deaths and injuries. Smoke alarms sense smoke well before you, alerting you in the event of a fire. Erlanger residents should practice home evacuations and follow recommended maintenance for their smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Alarms should meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. The 2021 Fire Prevention Week theme, Learn the Sounds of Safety, effectively reminds us it is important to learn the different sounds of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. Now, therefore, I, Jessica Fetty, Mayor of the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim October 3rd through 9th, 2021 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city, and I urge all the people of Erlanger to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out in the event of a fire or other emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Erlanger Fire and EMS services during Fire Prevention Week 2021. Next on the agenda is comments of those other than council members, and we have a list here and then a few more. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. All right. First on the list is Rick Haddon. Rick, if you'd like to come to the podium and hit the little orange button. And it'll turn red. There you go.
Good evening. First of all, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you, to see if I can maybe get some assistance from the council. My wife and I own property at 3376 and 3378 Northway Drive. We've owned that since 1989. Our property sits up a little higher than the ones behind us. It drops off, and there's what is being called an easement back there, a water easement. It used to be a little bit of water would go through there when it rained, and I, for years, mowed that. It would rain, and it would get wet, and then it would dry up, and I mowed it for years. Well, here over the past few years, that area is not drying up. It's now 5 to 6 feet wide, and it stays marshy and wet all the time. No matter how long it goes without rain, it is a marsh. So I pay to have the property mowed and upkept. The gentlemen that mow it are unable to get in there to mow it. They've lost their mowers. They had to pull them out with a four-wheel drive truck. If they go in there with their boots to try to weed whack it, it goes up over their boots. They lose their boots. The lady behind me calls numerous times a year to the code enforcement officer and complains about the weeds. So Daryl and I have become very good friends over the telephone over this issue. As a matter of fact, he was there last week after the complaint was filed. He stepped in and almost lost his shoe at the very edge of it. So we're not quite sure what's happened there, but something has changed that's caused that to go from a little watershed to a swamp. And I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. I'm being responsible to maintain an easement that has gotten out of control, and I'm not able to take care of it anymore. Now, what I had the gentleman do last time to appease the neighbor behind me was to get in as far as they could and weed eat, and then the only other option to kill the weeds was to spray weed killer Roundup. Now, I'm not a big fan of spraying chemicals in a city environment, especially in an area where water is going to carry it into the sewer system, and that also takes all the cover off of the land, which allows the water to run even faster. So I guess what I'm asking, is there anything that the city might be able to do, maybe to look into this, launch some kind of an investigation to see, first of all, why this has gotten so much larger and so much swampier, and
Yes.
then maybe come up with some kind of a solution that this can be resolved so it's not such a big issue.
Yeah, Rick, I've been out to your property before, and I know Public Works and the codes have been. We have explained the drainage program we have to pay half of repairs for that, and you haven't taken advantage of that yet.
I don't remember that. I don't remember
Okay.
it being offered.
Okay. Yeah, I know Peter Glenn has talked to you about that, but I've got your phone number here.
Sure.
I'll give you a call tomorrow
Okay.
before noon,
Okay.
and then we'll discuss either just meeting to go over another time and just see if there's any other options.
Sure,
Okay?
if we could get some kind of a plan with a cost put together so we know what we're dealing with, that would be great. But,
Thank you, sir.
I'm just trying to make everybody happy, and I'm not having much luck.
It's a challenging situation. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. All right, Lucy Riffle.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Since you're not enforcing the rule on the front door, I'll take my mask off so I'm easily heard. I want to address you all tonight about the added legislation to the council agenda for this evening, and that is of the reduction of council members. I have spoken to many of you in the past and given you my opinions. I've given my opinions online, and Mayor, unfortunately, people say that you don't put information out there. I saw that last week too, and I know that that's not true. The city is very good at letting the citizens know things that are happening in the city. And I try to respond when it's incorrect information, as you know. But my opinion on this council reduction is that I am not in favor of any reduction. If you're going to reduce council at all, I could see 1, 2, maybe 3. But we have a very diverse city. I live in Old Erlanger. The people in my neighborhood are middle class to upper middle class to the rental apartments, many that are rent subsidy. The people that live on the side of town that I affectionately called Soviet Erlanger, the mayor and you all live over there. It's my brother lives there too. I nicknamed it that when he moved there. Your homes are worth a whole lot more than ours, and the people that live in them are of a different caliber. But by having 12 council members, we have diverse ideas. We have a diverse group of people. And I have never seen a time that we've had an election that we have not had enough people run for those 12 spots. If we were having trouble getting council members, then it might be something we needed to consider. I have not yet heard a good reason for the reduction, other than it would be easier to maybe get people to agree upon things. Well, if we have all like-minded people, we may end up with a situation like we have in our legislature, where they can't agree on anything from the boss, or they just constantly are in turmoil because they're all like-minded. I think looking at the diversity of this city, the diversity of its citizens, and the diversity of the council members here is what makes Erlanger the place that I enjoy living. Yes, I've heard the arguments that Villa Hills has 7 or Fort Mitchell, I don't even know their numbers. But if you look at the cities, they're not diverse like ours. And yes, they're all like-minded, but they're like-minded of all the citizens that live in those towns. So I think you need to look long and hard before you reduce council. I'm also a little appalled that this is coming up again. It's almost like mom says no, so let's bring it up again to dad. This was voted on last year. This was voted on the year before. This was, I think, voted on, Mr. Hermes, when you were mayor. And can we not accept a decision of the council? I'm a little appalled at that. Don't need a response on that. I wanted to give you my opinion. I have one other thing I just want to mention to you. I know you have legislation tonight, affectionately known through town as the chicken legislation. And I only have one comment to say about that. It will not affect me one way or the other. I'm surrounded by school, and I don't think Lindemann's going to have a chicken coop. So it will not bother me one way or the other. But when Mr. Massey had his rooster that caused the last problem, at the same time, I had a chicken arrive at my house. I think it was a sister of Mr. Massey's rooster. They looked alike. And my brother affectionately named it Cockle-Doodle Dork, and Dork lived with us for about 3 years. I didn't build a coop. My husband threw scraps out, and it ate seeds and whatever, and kind of became a pet. It followed us around the yard and was kind of fun. The kids didn't know it was there because it stayed in the back. But it was a mess. And so if you pass this ordinance, be prepared for codes, because Dork was a mess. Also, some wild animal finally came, and we found Dork mutilated, had been eaten. So be prepared to have those types of creatures drawn in towards your neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next is Janelle Wolf. Ms. Wolf?
So just to let everybody know, since we do have so many people here tonight, we're going to limit everybody to 3 minutes just so we can get through everybody. Thank you.
Good evening. We were at our HOA meeting, and we requested in our neighborhood a stop sign at a cross Southwick Place and Brunswick Court, back off of Narrows. And they said that we should come to the city council meeting. And so I don't know if this is the appropriate place for this, but I thought I would just come and just throw it out there that we have quite a few older citizens in our neighborhood, townhomes and patio homes. And since they've opened up, since Dries opened up the street, there's a large neighborhood towards the back with lots and lots of houses, and the cars fly down the street, and they kind of disregard people walking, and this is our neighborhood where we walk a lot. A lot of older citizens are walking a lot, and they, if we're crossing the street, they honk and have to, slam on their brakes. They're just going too fast. So we'd like to request a stop sign to be put at Brunswick and Southwick. I don't know how that works, and
Yeah, I'll explain that. That's the one we already looked at, correct? We discussed that last month or the month before.
Oh.
Currently, staff's recommendation is not to put one in, but we did say that in 6 months we'll take another look at it once there's been some more houses. And you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're definitely not wrong. I just had one thing to add to that. I was approached by Debbie Cook over the weekend. She had mentioned the same thing, that she was the one who came here and said that she said that they're still having a problem with people speeding through that area. And I had spoken with Chief and Lieutenant Lemming about at least putting one of our radar signs out there so we can at least collect the data.
Okay, yeah.
So I think it's kind of one step at a time here.
That would be good. They are really going fast, at least 35, 40 miles an hour in a 20. So it's pretty dangerous, and so I just wanted to throw that out.
So in the next few months, feel free to email us at the info@City of Erlanger or to me, and just remind us, and I'll let you know what the status is. So you don't have to come to the meetings if you just want to shoot me an email, and I'll let you know what we have going on in that area.
Okay, and it's info at what?
It's on our website. It's info@cityofErlanger.com, or you can look up my name and just email me directly. Either one will come to me.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Matt,
Ms.
is this, Matt, I'm Mr. Kramer, I'm sorry. Is this close to where I had emailed you with Trails of Doe Run as well?
I don't remember that email. I'm sorry. It's all in that same
I
area.
know it's
yeah.
all, I just.
Yeah, specifically, they're talking about I think,
Right,
in
I
a little
know.
bit, but we are looking at the whole.
Okay, because I know that Trails of Doe Run connects
Correct.
up with this, and
Yeah.
I feel like some of the traffic is all the same traffic.
Yeah, when our analysis is involving from narrows to the trails.
Okay. Next is Breanne Burke.
Hello, I just wanted to also address the chicken ordinance. And I was looking through it earlier, I guess somebody had brought it up online a couple months back, and it kind of piqued my interest. Again, just like the previous speaker, it doesn't affect me one way or another because I live in the apartments back over there, so apartments, HOAs, condos, like different gated communities, et cetera, they can all make ordinances or rules that'll make things more strict than what the city allows. So that would be the case in my situation too. But I think that the way that it's currently written, 500 feet, you're looking at a 1 2/3 football fields between a coop or where you're keeping these chickens and the next dwelling. I don't think most people in Erlanger have the space to be able to.
So for clarification, that's the current ordinance?
Current, yes.
Yeah, is 500 feet. So the
500 feet.
proposed ordinance is 50 feet.
Correct.
All right, I'm sorry.
The way that it's currently written, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of people that would be able to meet that requirement. But the 50 feet update to it, love that option because I think that that's more attainable for a lot of people who do want to keep chickens. But to kind of address some of the other concerns, I know that it says that there's no roosters that are allowed. You can only keep or raise up to 6 chickens. They're not allowed to run throughout the neighborhood. They're not allowed to run at large. So I think that that's going to do a lot to be able to help some of those concerns. And also, I mean, if you're allowing people to be able to provide for themselves or for their neighbors, that's also going to do a lot to be able to help ease people's minds when it comes to things like food insecurity, self-sufficiency, especially when we've seen the strain over the past year and a half or so of the food supplies, like where, we saw how quickly it went from there's plenty of things on the shelves to now it's limit 2 per person to temporarily out of stock. And we saw how quickly that happened. So I think that this update here is good, but I do also realize that it is going to cause a need for more code enforcement, but I don't know that that's anything that would be a huge strain on the city code enforcement officers. So I just wanted to express my my like for this update here. I think that that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the list is Angie Ellison.
There we go. Thank you. I'm also from the Southwick community, and I think it really is a safety issue. We have cars that somebody's turning left to go into their driveway, and then someone goes around them on the left side because they can't get through. They're speeding. We sit out, one evening we counted, and this is just random, in 45 minutes there were 52 cars that drove by. So some people have said, oh, there's not many cars that go by. Well, if you're there at 1 in the afternoon, there probably isn't. But if you're there anytime during a busy time of the day or getting out in the morning or the evening, and it's just not also at the top where Brunswick meets Southwick, it's also when they enter from the other community, that to slow them down because it's just a great speed. You know, they just fly through there, and then you have a lot of the teenagers, and it really is a safety issue with a lot of our residents. It's just a concern that we do have there. And the sign, the speed sign, that may, you know, be able to tell how fast someone's going, does that also count the number of cars or just the speed?
It actually counts the number of cars, and then it also gives us the time. So we'll be able to see, you know, how the quantity of cars, the speed that they're going, the average speed, and the time that it's happening. So it actually helps us be very intentional with our patrol, so that we can really be paying attention and have somebody monitoring it at those peak hours. So that'll give us a really good indication of what's going on.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for coming. Okay. Next on the list is Serena Owen.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, citizens, all of our brothers and sisters in the community. We really appreciate you. My name's Serena Owen. I am a Erlanger and Ellesmere Schools school board member, but I'm also a parent of a student at Lloyd High School, and I'm very involved in the community. I also serve on your Erlanger City Diversity, Race, and Relations Task Force. And so I just want to first thank you for your awesome summer send-off, of course. And then I want to thank you for your proclamations today and for the proclamations for our cafeteria workers this past spring, and then also for St. Henry students this summer. Today, I'm here supporting my daughter, Destiny Owen, who is a student at Lloyd High School, and she sent an email request to all of the city council members and our mayor and a city manager back in September, on September the 23rd, requesting that the city of Erlanger support a proclamation for Safe Schools Week, which will be the third week in October. So I was surprised to not see it on the agenda. But again, I'm here supporting Destiny, and I will get, since they're, okay. So she's going to introduce herself, but would like for you to consider, again, proclaiming the third week of October as Safe Schools Week. We care about all of our students and the community, and so this would just be a collaboration of our schools, the city government, even she's also asking the governor, as well as our attorney general and other legislators, and as well as in the city of Ellesmere, to collaborate with the schools and students and families in our community to support our students in safe schools. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Larry Owen. I appreciate, I've sent emails and everything on support of my daughter, Destiny Owen, for the proclamation, and also sent some follow-up emails, just asking for you guys to support and maybe get some signatures for her proclamation. She's worked really hard with this, so I'll let her finish it.
My name is Jessie Owen. I am a Girl Scout and a student at Lloyd High School. I like to help people and want to help make our schools and district as safe as possible. Will you please help me proclaim every third week of October as America's Safe Schools Week, when we can all work together to help make our schools and district as safe as possible for students, families, staff, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Did you all have any questions, or do you think,
since you all received the request back in September, is there a decision on this proclamation? We've seen other proclamations, so we'd just like to
Well,
know if you...
so we typically write the proclamation in order for it to be read. So what I'll need to talk to our city administrator is take a look into the proclamation. And I mean, are you open to any type of changes that we would need to make to the proclamation to move it forward? Are you comfortable with that?
Well, so when Destiny sent her email, she actually sent, this is a national initiative. So a proclamation has already been created. She wanted to save you guys the trouble, and we thought that was a great idea, so she included a copy of the proclamation in her September request. So I've requested proclamations for community heroes in the past and was open to mayors, modifying to meet, the needs of the council. So.
That's great. Then we'll take a look at it, and if you're comfortable with some changes to it, then we're going to have a special meeting this month, I believe, so we can read it at that point. And it's probably going to be the third week, so
awesome.
That'll work out pretty nicely.
Awesome. Okay. Would you let us know?
Yes,
we can be present. Thank you.
Serena, I just checked. I haven't gotten an email request, so if you could maybe try to forward that again. I think you've got my email.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was sent to you too.
Okay. Yeah, I just looked. I don't have it. That's fine. Thank you.
Can we give this to you? Thank you.
If you give it to Matt, it's fine. Okay. Thank you.
That's the email and the proclamation.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Chad O'Meara.
Hello and good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for giving me time to speak. Thank you, Serena, for encouraging me to come up here tonight. I've made this suggestion before, not in this environment, but I heard that the intersection here at Baker and Commonwealth had been rezoned to allow for more protection for children, young adults crossing that intersection, getting to school. I have 2 children who attend Lloyd. And I've heard of how many children and young adults have been hit at that intersection. And I even heard most recently a police officer who was appointed to protect them was a victim as well. And I just thought this would be a great time for me to present to the public opinion the idea of constructing a pedestrian overpass at that intersection. One from BP reaching to this corner, possibly wheelchair accessible. It could be a great archway that we could have City of Erlanger. We could have mesh fencing so nothing can go in and out of there. We could hang up advertisements like local periodic fairs and stuff could be hung up there for people to see as they drive by. But most importantly, for the safety of our children, that I'm aware that that is one of the busiest intersections when it comes to students coming to and from Lindemann or Lloyd. So I don't know what needs to be done at this point, if you guys would talk amongst yourselves and bring this up, or?
Yeah, we actually looked into that 3 years ago. It is a multi-million-dollar project to do that, and that's assuming that the kids actually use it. Currently, the PD is actually looking into a grant just to see if there are any opportunities for it, but we're in the early stages of any kind of grant research for that. But it is something that we've discussed. There's a lot of benefits to it. It's obviously a large price tag, though.
Yeah, I spoke to, I think it was Department of Transportation, and they said it would be between like $3 or $4 million.
That's correct.
So.
Yeah. So we're looking at the PD is looking at a lot of different issues or solutions for that. You know, we have previously too, but recently they've been looking at it a little bit more. So we are looking into it, and I appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, Marvin Townsend.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to make this short. I am in favor of Destiny Owen's proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. I appreciate that. Okay. All right, that concludes public comment.
Yes. I've had my hand up for several minutes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. There's no other way for me to notify anybody that I have my hand up other than everyone, me than just speaking. I wanted to go back to Mr. O'Mara's suggestion about the overpass, and I wanted to know if we had ever investigated going under Commonwealth like they do in Fort Mitchell across from Blessed Sacrament. I didn't know if that was an option, if that is a need. I have no idea how much it cost.
Yeah.
The only other thing I will say, having been a student at Eastern Kentucky University, prior to there being an overpass on one of their roads and basically playing Frogger for 2 years, the problem that they have with an overpass is that it keeps getting hit by semis. And I would be very concerned about that happening out here as well. I don't know how tall it would have to be. I'm sure that would be taken into consideration, but I just throw that out there because while I am definitely in support of anything other than what we have right now out there, I would be very concerned about us spending $3 to $4 million on something to get taken down by semis. We know how many other issues we have in this city related to semis going down roads they're not supposed to and hitting things, and so I just wanted to throw those two things out there about the Commonwealth Baker situation.
We have looked at the underpass. The biggest challenge I think with that one, other than cost, is just safety issues with it being underground and can't see it. So.
All right, so we'll move along to the mayor's report. I want to start off by thanking everyone for attending the summer send-off. This happened on September 18th. It was just a fantastic event. And when I looked around the event and I saw all of our city employees working so hard, it was just amazing to see the teamwork, the camaraderie, the level of effort and dedication, and I couldn't be more appreciative. I can't name everybody who worked on this, or we might be here forever, and you all don't want that. But I do want to call out two really special individuals. Charlie Loudermilk is our community resource officer, and at the last minute, our MC dropped to not being able to be there the whole time. Charlie did not skip a beat, and he took over the whole MCing of the event. And really just like went above and beyond. And then I also want to call out Kim Wolking, our event planner. This was a huge undertaking that took so many people to make happen, and Kim just plans such great events for our city. And I know any of you that have attended some of the events that the city of Erlanger puts on, they're always family friendly for all different age groups, and she's very creative in how she plans these things and utilizes the money that is given to her for these events. So thank you. I also want to congratulate, we had the Skyline Coney eating contest, and one of our residents, Tyler Ligas, he was our winner. And then I want to also congratulate Councilmember Tyson Hermes for winning the Colonial Cottage pie eating contest. So thank you. I also wanted to thank all of our sponsors. Arling House was our title sponsor, Silver Lakes, St. Elizabeth, Arts Rental. There's so many sponsors. And between monetary donations and in-kind donations, we are over $50,000 worth of community support that went into, all the bands were provided by the sponsors, all the Cincinnati Circus, the tent. I mean, it's just incredible, the outpour of support. And then it was just a fantastic event. So thank you so much. We're already working on the next one and figuring out how to make it even bigger and better than this past year. I also want to let you know that the mural on the railroad underpass has begun. So she was out there. Her name is Kara Crow. She is a past Erlanger resident, graduated from St. Henry, went to UC. Her parents still live within the city. So Erlanger holds a really dear place in her heart. And the mural that she designed, it's phenomenal. It takes into consideration our history of the train depot, and even Colonial Cottage is on there. And it's just a really special mural that I can't wait to see come to life. I also want to call out, last Monday, we welcomed the DAV at their ribbon cutting. It was last Monday. It was a phenomenal ceremony. I was honored to speak in front of these magnificent human beings that have given so much to our country. And then, as an example of this beautiful relationship that we are going to have, and we began with DAV in the city of Erlanger, the Field of Flags. So the DAV holds a fundraiser where people can sponsor flags, and they plant these flags in what used to be their field in front of their building out in Cold Spring. Well, they came to the city and they didn't have that same type of field available. So we worked with them and we found a piece of land that could be used, and it was out at Flagship Park, and they loved, that it was called Flagship Park. And they planted over 5,000 flags. And I hope you all had the opportunity to go and see it, because it was truly breathtaking, and made you just really, I don't know, it gave me goosebumps. So I wanted to read, I received an email from Dan Glaskins, who is the digital marketing manager for DAV National Headquarters. We've been in constant communication with Dan for the ribbon cutting ceremony, the flag, the Field of Flags, the giant flag that flies. That was a Board of Adjustments requirement to get a variance for the size of flag he wanted to fly. So I wanted to read this email from him. This was to me and Kim Wolking. Our team is taking the flags at DAV's Flag of Fields at Flagship down this morning. I wanted to send a note to once again thank you both for working with us on this and for all your support you offered the campaign. This year was the 6th year of our campaign and by far our best yet. We raised a record $276,000 and planted 5,300 flags in the field. While many supported our effort, I wanted to draw special attention to Erlanger fireman Brad Foley. Both he and his son, Blake, joined about a dozen of volunteers from TQL's Erlanger branch to help us plant flags on Friday, September 22nd. Brad went above and beyond, helping me break down boxes and even loading up his truck to properly dispose of these boxes in recycling bins. I cannot tell you how much that meant to me after 6 long hours of work that day. He offered up this message back to an email thanking him. It was our pleasure to help out. Supporting veterans is something that our family will always support. We look forward to working with you in the future. In the 3 different times I was out in the field, I saw dozens of people stopping to take pictures and reflect in the field. One lady I spoke with was taken back and in tears, telling me her Vietnam veteran father just died a couple of months ago and how much she wished she could have honored him with a flag. I told her that the field was there to honor him and all our veterans, and she just smiled and said, "God bless you." Our photographer had a similar experience during her time in the field, writing this email to me. I met the sweetest couple while I was there, a Vietnam veteran and his wife. He was moved to tears by the field of flags, and the two just kept thanking us for everything we do for veterans. It was so touching. Then finally, there was the email I got from Alicia Lindstead, who lives in the adjacent neighborhood. She offered to help take the flags down with her high school son. Here's what she said. "The American flags look stunning, and the walk with the signage is very informative. Thank you for this very important and moving experience. We live nearby and are up at the park daily. I just want to share some of the many good things that came from this effort. Again, thank you for your support. We look forward to long and rewarding partnership with the City of Erlanger on this campaign and many more." I thank Dan for that email because it shows that the efforts that our Brad Foley is going through, and it's appreciated so much by our new business and then the residents. And I thank Brad for doing that and going above and beyond. I also want to call out Brad again because he's gone above and beyond in another case. On Saturday, September 11th, in this council chambers, Wills for First Responders event happened. The result of the event was 93 first responders and their loved ones received a free will. The room was filled with lawyers dedicating their time, their paralegals, and got it done. 93 first responders. Brad was integral in the creation and having that happen within our city. And I think it's amazing that not only did Brad participate, but the Erlanger Fire EMS Honor Guard, the Emerald Society, the local 4206. So many people came out to volunteer, and I greatly appreciate it because it brought people into our community and showed them what we're all about. Mr. Kramer?
Thank you, Mayor. Been a very busy month for staff here. First thing I want to talk about is an addition to our procurement policy. After discussions with Mr. Meyer had brought up some previous concerns with leases, the staff took a look at it and we agreed that there were some ways to improve. So along with our procurement policy, we have added leases to it. If a lease spans over a single budget year and there's an early cancellation payoff that exceeds the annual expense, we're going to have council approve that through a municipal order. So what that does, just to kind of explain that a little bit better, is if we're indebting the city longer than the budget period, we just want council to be aware of that. So I think it's a good change. So you'll see that here coming up. I know there's a bid that's going to be going out here in the next month. So you might see that here in the next couple months, but just if that's going on. Additionally, he brought up the adding that type of long-term debt to our financials, which we will be doing next year. They actually just put that out in the latest GASB update that were required last year. So Gary's a little ahead of the times on that one as well. But We appreciate the feedbacks from him. We do have a surplus item on the agenda that's just an administrative task that I think Sherry will explain in her report. We are going to ask for a special meeting at the October caucus meeting to pass to have a second reading for the budget. We've been talking with the ad district. We're waiting now on the utilities grant. We're waiting on Duke Energy, and they're waiting to see the approved budget amendment that adds that $200,000 to our budget. So I'd ask the council to be okay with moving that up to October caucus as opposed to November. Just again, make sure there's nothing that Erlanger is slowing down. I still think we're one of the first in the states to be doing this, but every time I talk to them, it seems like they brought one more item up. So I'd like to add that into a special meeting in October. Additionally, yes, I'm sorry.
Matt, I just want to confirm that's the first reading we have, item number 3, the fiscal year 22 budget amendment. Second reading of that item, though?
Correct.
Okay.
Is that right, Kara? I was probably just going to do both budget amendments. Did you not want to do both on the same day, Gary?
No, I just wanted to make sure that it was this budget amendment and not an additional one that.
No. Yes, it's already included. I'm sorry. Yes, it's already included in the current budget amendments. We were going to go ahead and do both of them since yeah. That was just one thing. We didn't include it in the original budget because we weren't 100% sure on the cost. So we waited till we knew for sure, and that's why we had to do that in the budget amendment. And then the final thing is to add the occupational license ordinance to the caucus meeting in October. Emmy and I should have a draft to discuss with council, recommending some changes to give the city a little bit more control on managing and ensuring that our businesses are following the rules that are in front of them. Pending any other questions, that's all I have.
Mr. Gatlin, City Attorney's Report.
We have quite a bit of legislation tonight. I think Mr. Kramer has mentioned most of it. We do have a second reading for which a vote will be required on the Z21 ordinance. Just to refresh, that is a complete redo of the entire Erlanger ordinance, zoning ordinance, and that is a second reading. Also, just for clarifications, we are doing, as was added to the agenda, 2 first readings of the council size reduction, both 9 and 7. From a practical perspective, there's no problem with doing 2 first readings on that. I just think when we come around to the second readings, whether we're going to add those as a special, an item, I haven't heard anyone say they want to do that to the special meeting in October, or we do it in the regular November council meeting. Just realize that if we vote on both, and just hypothetically, I don't see both passing, but if we happen to vote on both and both passed, the last one passed is actually the one that would be the ordinance, okay? So we can address that in October or November. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Glenn.
Okay, capital project updates. Lots of stuff going on. Here this last month, we have continued street improvement projects on Sagebrush and Lexington, Woodward, and Shadyside. Those are all currently, that's our whole entire budget worth of streets for this year, and they're all ongoing as we speak. Stevenson Road Sidewalk Improvement Project, that is currently out to bid, and we should be opening bids on October 13th. Our parks, the master plan of, let's see here, sorry, one moment. Stetter Locust are complete, and the final renderings are ongoing, and the Depot Park master plan is about 50% complete. Silver Lake restrooms should be going out to bid later this month. And Silver Lake parking lot improvements, the continued to Phase 2 improvements, should go out to bid hopefully early in November. Last thing I want to talk about is the Mystique Creek Playground. We are complete with it. It was a complete design build with Public Works crews. And we're going to have a ribbon cutting at 4 o'clock on October 15th, Friday, October 15th. So if you'd like to come out and kind of see what we've done, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Hermes.
Peter and Mayor, I thought you guys would appreciate this. I had someone today that congratulated me and the city of Erlanger on our new park. They went to Silver Lake Park for the summer send-off, and it just didn't recognize it at all because it looked so great. They thought it was a brand new park. So thank you for all your effort on there.
Yeah, for those of you that haven't gone to see the basketball goals, they're magnificent. Absolutely beyond awesome. So. Mr.
I
Meyer?
had a question just on clarification for Mr. Glenn. You'd mentioned the roads that are being done right now. Are those all for this year or for this fiscal year?
This fiscal year.
So then there's no road projects in the spring, is that correct?
We do have a surplus, so everything came under budget. So we're looking at what we're going to do as far as other projects that maybe we can move forward into this year.
Okay, so does that mean that we potentially have capacity if the council decides to bring more capital money forward to do additional road projects in the spring?
Yes.
Okay.
Not a whole lot, but yes.
It would probably be good to bring those forward sooner rather than later. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Glenn, but those guys get backed up pretty quickly, and I'm sure they're already logging work into the spring. So if we're thinking about doing that, we probably should do it soon.
I just want to make sure we have the capacity to
Yeah.
take on additional projects.
That's a great question.
All right. Mrs. Hoffman?
On October 16th, we will be having our Halloween Carnival and the Addams Family Movie from 5:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. at the Depot Park. And also a reminder that October 31st is Trick or Treat in the city of Erlanger from 6 to 8 p.m. And then Mr. Kramer mentioned earlier the surplus property. There's a desk that our codes department uses. It's from 1991. It's a steel L-shaped desk, and it's in very, very bad condition. So we have it surplus to dispose of. And that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Kramer.
Good evening. The only thing I have to report is the auditors will be here the week of October 18th for our fiscal year 21 field work. So that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Chief Rader. All right. Assistant Chief McQuarrie.
Good evening, thank you. I just wanted to touch base. I know we had the proclamation this evening for Fire Prevention Week. It's actually Fire Prevention Month for us, so we will be out with the schools, preschools, and daycares throughout the city. We will be reaching hundreds and hundreds of children to speak and educate on fire safety. So if there's anybody watching that would like to have the fire department come out, just give us a call at the station. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mark Stewart.
We're still busy. Construction's still going strong, despite the fact of a lot of materials are starting to be short again, but they're still plugging along. You also notice they did change up the codes report to reflects some different information, so if you have any questions on that, I can answer them, but if not, that's what we'll be looking at, that style from now on, so.
Great, thank you. All right, Emmy.
Good evening. For those of you all who were able to attend the grand opening celebration for the DAV last Monday, that was a spectacular event. We're really excited to have them in the city. Mayor Fetty did an amazing job with her speech during that ceremony, so thank you for that and for the warm welcome. Wanted to congratulate Aesthetics by Jean. It's just a small business here on Commonwealth Avenue that received a small business grant this month. They implemented some new signage, exterior lighting, and some interior fixtures with that grant project. This month, I've also been working on completing the Kentucky Institute for Economic Development training program. I've got a few more weeks left until I get that certificate program completed. Visited a number of businesses this month, talked to them about our small business grant program, hoping to get some more applications in this year for that program. There's been a lot of interest. And I also wanted to mention that I've been engaging Erlanger Ellesmere School District with some conversations around workforce development and how we can get some communication going between our local businesses and the school districts and the students that they have as a potential pipeline for workforce. I had the privilege of attending a trade skills group that's working on an apprenticeship program there at the school back last Wednesday, where they're demonstrating how to use power tools to some of their high school students. It was a really neat event, and I'd like to work with our businesses on getting more engaged in those types of programs in the school. So just a heads up on some of the things that I've been working on. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Emmy. All right, are there any reports from task forces? Mrs. Skidmore?
I guess it really falls under task forces. It's my Kenton County Alliance report, and it won't take very long. The speaker for the meeting was our own Joel Shepard. He's been on the Erlanger Police Department for 13 years, 8 of those as school resource officer. He created the STAND program. Joel Shepard taught at Miles and Linneman. Of 30 kids, 8 had tried drugs. In 2018, the question was, how many have heard of heroin and tried it? 8 students out of 30 kids had tried it. I did that for emphasis there. In 2021, a third of the students have heard of heroin. That concludes that something is wrong. Peer pressure increases because they want to be like your friend. Alcohol is a losing battle. This STAND program is offered in Ellesmere, Erlanger, and Grant County. The STAND program is unique. It's owned by the city of Erlanger. The results are based on facts, real talks, real discussions. We teach and encourage our kids to take a stand. The survey gives insight, data, and trends. In 2018 and 2019, the fifth graders had 174 responses. In 2020 and 2021, 7th grade had 80 responses, but that was when COVID was prevalent. 34% were interested in alcohol. If you could do it over, if Joel could have done it over, he would have offered more multiple choice questions, including the words never try and maybe try when it came to drugs. Talked about hindsight, topics to pursue, intro, tobacco and vape, alcohol and medicate, heroin and fentanyl, marijuana, meth and cocaine, ways to take a stand, survey, and post-test results, encouraging letter, no message, just take a stand.
Thank you. Any others? Ms. Jasper Lucas?
At our last Task Force for Diversity and Race Relations, we discussed and made plans for a human library event that's going to be in March. Then we'll be doing that in conjunction with the Erlanger Branch Library. And then we are going to hopefully have a presentation on Black and women's history in Northern Kentucky by Serena Owen, who talked earlier, and that'll be in February. And then we are also discussing, just in the early conversations, about some possible legislation that we'd like to introduce at some point. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other task force? Okay. All right, Mrs. Hoffman, are there any bids tonight?
Yes, Mr. Glenn has 2.
Okay, 2 bids over this past month. The first bid is street striping, and as always, we have 2 bidders, with the low bid being First Star Safety at $27,311.68, and that is within budget. And you can see them out there tonight as Striping Baker, so I think that was kind of nice. And the second bid we had was the Flagship Play Surface. So that was a very unusual bid. The low bidder was Bluegrass Recreation at $200,357.37. They were $21 low on a $200,000 bid. So that's the tightest bid I've ever seen. But I'd really like to thank Jim Viox and his team. We've done a lot of research on that playground surface, from the design, the color selection, and a lot of work and effort went into picking out what kind of colors would be best fitting, not for aesthetics, but for functionality, along with binders. And their team and my experience over the past 20 years putting these things in, I think is really going to help pay off with a surface that's going to last and be cost effective as well. So, but they really put in a lot of time and effort, and I appreciate that. Any questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, does anybody have any unfinished business? Mr. Cahill?
And another truck, but in the last month again, coming through Sycamore. So are we looking at anything else for this?
Yeah, we met with PDS this morning, discussed the GPS issues that are still going on, that they haven't updated the roads, and that's where we're at on that. With Amazon leaving, we were hoping that it would be an improvement, which I think it has been an improvement, but we are still having 1 or 2 slip through.
Okay. Just want to make sure we don't take it off our radar, because it's something that's, it's really devastating to that neighborhood, and we want to make sure we're taking care of them.
Okay, any other unfinished business? Okay, any new business? Mr. Meyer?
Thank you, Mayor. I know many have, recognized, I guess, over the past that I tend to, I dig into the numbers and talk about the budget a lot. There's one that's kind of been on my mind for quite a bit of time, and it's for this reason I'm asking to create a new task force that I would lead. And I'm going to call it, I guess, the Reimagine Fire Ems. And part of this is learning. So if we look at Erlanger's, fire budget, and then we look at some of the others that perhaps are independent fire district. If Erlanger was an independent fire district, there would be a $1.6 million reduction. Now, I'm not suggesting that we reduce by that amount, but I'm saying there's things that we could learn from others that are operating at a lower cost, and potentially try to implement, some of those things. I by no means am looking to say, hey, we should reduce the level of service or anything like that, but just to start to, peel back some of the numbers and do some digging in to understand, are there things that we can do, whether it's, if there's legislation that needs to be to support that, and just kind of take that forward. So I'm asking that I create a new task force to just start digging into some of that.
Okay, and you'll chair the task force?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any other representative on council that would like to? Mr. Cahill and Mr. Hermes?
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Jasper and Ms. Nicely? Okay. So we'll add that to our task force list. So it'll be the same exact process as all of our other task forces, that they're public meetings. They need to be noticed properly. So just let Mrs. Hoffman know. And then somebody will have to keep minutes as well. Okay. All right, any other new business? Mr. Hermes?
I would like to ask for a topic to be added to the caucus meeting agenda, and that would be in the talk of the reduction of council size. We've also brought up term limits, and I would like to discuss that more in a caucus setting.
Okay, we'll go ahead and add that to the caucus meeting. Any other new business? Okay, all right, so legislation. Jack, do you want to do the two that we added
I'll do
first?
the add-ons last.
Okay, cool.
So we'll start with an ordinance repealing the current Erlanger zoning code and zoning map and replacing with an updated zoning code and zoning map. This is the Z21 update that we've been hearing about for several years. This did go in front of the Kenton County Planning Commission, was approved by PDS staff, and approved by the Kenton County Planning Commission at their August 5th, 2021 public hearing. The entirety of the zoning code was a link that was emailed out. Again, this completely overhauls the entire Erlanger zoning code. This is a second reading.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mr. Meyer, Mr. Nipper, any discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to, give thanks to Mr. Stewart, Ms. Randall, Mr. Hahn, who's not around here anymore. I know this was years in the making, and I don't know how many hours of work, coming through all of that. It was no small task. I'm grateful to have been a part of that, and look forward to, how that is implemented and just the changes that can, bring forward and solving a number of the problems that I think that's been in front of this council as well. That's kind of accounted for here. So I just want to thank everyone that was involved.
I want to thank you, Gary. You put a lot of time and effort into this as well, and it's greatly appreciated. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Mrs. Hoffman?
Mr. Meyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Doan?
Aye.
Mr. Nipper?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper Lucas?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hermes?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Reckers?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Elmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, next we have an ordinance of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, amending Erlanger ordinance numbers 2498, 2512, 2513, 2518, and 2521, and the budget adopted thereby for the City of Erlanger for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2020, and ending on June 30th, 2021. Attached is the Google Docs, which crosses out the line items or the amounts that have been changed. This is a first reading.
Okay, Mrs. Hoffman, if you can note in the minutes the first reading of this ordinance.
Next, we have an ordinance of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, amending Erlanger ordinance number 2522 and the budget adopted thereby for the City of Erlanger for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2021 and ending on June 30th, 2022. Again, there is a Google Doc that is attached. You can see struck through are the dollar amounts that have been or the old budget, and then the highlighted portion next to it is what is being changed.
Okay, Mrs. Hoffman, if you can note in the minutes the first reading.
Next, we have an ordinance of the City of Erlanger to regulate and allow the raising of chickens for personal, family, or home use in residential zones. As previously discussed, the current ordinance restricts any fowl or livestock within 500 feet of any residence other than that of the owner of such fowl or livestock. This ordinance makes several changes. It does allow for up to 6 chickens in the city for personal, family, or home use. It shall be unlawful to keep or raise chickens for the sale or profit in the city. And it shall be unlawful to use, operate, or maintain any coop, hutch, runway, or enclosure for chickens within 50 feet of any other dwelling house other than the dwelling house on the same premises. Shall be unlawful to have any roosters, and does establish the fines for not following this ordinance.
Okay, Mrs. Hoffman, please note in the minutes the first reading of this ordinance.
All right, next we have a municipal order of the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determination.
Miss Jennifer Jasper. Lucas.
Kyle also had her hand up. I just want to make sure she's recognized as well. I have some questions about the chickens ordinance. I know that we discussed it some during the caucus meeting, but I have some additional questions.
I mean, we're just doing a first reading tonight. I mean, it certainly would be up to council or up to the mayor if we want to have discussion of the first reading after the first reading. I think normally we would have either had discussion at a caucus committee meeting.
I understand that, but I received additional questions this week and last week from residents, and I have some additional questions. I'm not prepared to vote on a second reading until I get answers to my questions. So
we have a caucus meeting.
I understand that.
And that'll be before the second reading.
Okay.
And the vote. So that would be the proper time to discuss. So we can add it to the caucus meeting if you'd like.
Ms. Kyle and I seem to agree on that, so because she has questions as well. And if no one else is agreeable to us discussing it tonight, then we'll wait till the caucus meeting.
We did have some council members who were absent. They were on vacation during that caucus, and I think they need to be in on the discussion also. Plus, I've got some information from citizens who want me to pass on some of their ideas, and I didn't realize it was going to go so fast. I was like, so yeah, I definitely want to discuss this legislation before I vote.
All right, next we'll move on to a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. As was discussed by Ms. Hoffman, this is a 1991 Corey Hybert steel shaped desk that the disposition method is disposal. This does require a motion, second, and vote.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Mrs. Kyle, Mr. Hermes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving uniform grant guidance policies and procedures. This is a bit of a housekeeping issue, which was recommended both by the auditor and the grant program. You can see that there's a 27-page document, which is that you would be adopting, which would be the new rules, regulations, policies, and procedures as it relates to the uniform grant guidance.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Mrs. Reckers, Ms. Nicely, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
All right, next we have the two additional items for first reading. First is, let me show you the right one first. First is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger to change the number of city council members from 12 members to 9 members. It's very simple. If you look in section 1, it's just changing the amount of members from 12 to 9. That would be effective at the next general election. That is a first reading.
Okay, Mrs. Hoffman, can you please note in the minutes the first reading of that ordinance?
Next, we have an ordinance of the City of Erlanger to change the number of city council members from 12 members to 7 members. Again, you can see that the only change that's been made to the current ordinance is it reduces the council size from 12 to 7. This also would be effective upon the November 2022 elections.
Okay, Mrs. Hoffman, if you can note in the minutes the first reading.
I think Ms. Kyle has a question.
I should go, ooh, 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 like the kids in school used to go. Are we going to still have discussion on the reduction, the two different plans at the caucus meeting? Because this is another one that, you know, just popped up tonight that I feel that we need to discuss before we vote. Would it be possible to discuss this at the caucus along with the term limits? I mean,
Yes.
is that all right?
Yep, we'll add it to the caucus agenda.
Yeah, I just feel more comfortable doing that. Thank you.
Are there any announcements for this evening? Okay. Do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Mrs. Reckers, Mrs. Nicely. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.